What is up, YouTube? We are back in the garage for a little bit. Not working on anything today, but I figured I'd update because I've been jamming away like crazy the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days, almost a week, and I have not been filming that much because the Falcon has been kind of back and forth from the shop, running and driving. You saw the startup video by now, if you're following. Runs okay, motor's decent. I got a couple issues that I'll go over right now and then give you a quick little update. I finally got the garage reorganized again, ish. Power washer's in here for now. That's got to go back to the shop. And then I got some other cleanup stuff to do, but cleared off the lift bench minus the sporty motor that we got to start digging into pretty quick here. Managed to get 3 motors along the garage wall this way. Got the cherry picker put away, choppers buried, super glides buried, all of which run and drive. And I finally got my bagger back from my buddy's shop because there's big things happening on that end too, which I'll also go over in this video. So if you're here for a bunch of wrenching on stuff, skip to the next one. This is just kind of a quick little update on all of the miscellaneous stuff that's going on right now. Evo's still here. I haven't even touched this or any of the S&S Carb stuff that I got to go through and flip-flop. That I'm going to be doing pretty quick. I don't think I'm doing a video on those. Got my 78 FLH back from my buddy's shop. This has been sitting there since October, November-ish. Pulled it out. I had it on a battery tender periodically over the winter and spring and part of summer. Well, pulled it out of the shop, hit the start button, fired right up, drove it home. The only issue that I ran into is front brakes are gone. It's not leaking, but the gasket here is all inflated. I don't know if it evaporated or what happened here. So we got to do a new gasket on the front master cylinder and get that all fixed. There's no leaks or anything underneath the housing, but there's that. So FLH is back. We'll go over a little more in detail on a separate video on that. I got a couple things to tweak, but like I said, runs and drives done. Superglide's done running. Chopper's done running. So this, I have not been doing a lot of bike stuff this year, unfortunately, because we've been playing car. So on the Falcon, where we left off, I drove this to the shop to put the exhaust on. Set you guys down here real quick. Here's kind of where we're at. Edelbrock Carb is back on. I got the Holly. I did try hooking that one up. Didn't necessarily work exactly as I hoped. Rear float was leaking a little bit. I don't know if the float's just stuck, but I can look into that at a later date and swap this all back over. With the Edelbrock and the linkage and everything set up the way it is, I need to trim down the throttle cable and do final adjustments on that, as well as the TV cable. I do have the transline pressure set proper, so we're getting good shifts, hard shifts under load. It still shifts pretty early under normal driving, but that's all adjustable, and I don't want to go too crazy on the adjustments because the main issue I'm having right now is if I go wide open throttle on this Edelbrock, with the current setup, the pedal is only going to about there. You guys aren't going to be able to see that, but I'm only getting about 2/3 throttle maximum right now with this configuration. I used to have that carb bracket with a lot more adjustment on it because I don't have a lot of pedal throw on there. I don't know if it's the right pedal for the car. Picked it out of a junkyard and made it work. So that needs to get addressed. I'm not getting full pedal travel on this motor. I don't have any of the vacuum advanced stuff hooked up because I don't really care. Timing's pretty hot. I think we're 32 degrees, 36 degrees, something like that. I can't remember exactly from when I dialed it in, but set it to the highest vacuum. Adjusted the idle screws on the carb. It runs okay, it's just not getting full power. It does not make a lot of power down low with this cam setup. Up top, she's a screamer, but I did definitely lose some low end. And again, it's hard making any judgments on the current setup when I'm not getting full throttle yet. On the inside, that B&M shifter, or the Hurst shifter that I had, I wasn't a big fan of it. So Instead, I went back to the old shifter I had in here. It shifted okay, I just didn't like the pattern. Park was, I think I had it run backwards too, but park was all the way back, and then you gotta push it down. No, pull up for reverse, then you can click neutral and then push down and go forward. Like I said, I think it's supposed to come backwards that way, but I was not a big fan of that, so I flip-flopped that back. I like this shifter orientation and shifter pattern much better. So here's the Holly that's gonna go back in there, and some other crap that we still gotta mess around with. Had to figure out what we needed to load in the car. Going up to Milwaukee today. So I got the shifter in, gauges are all hooked up. I never hooked up the overdrive gauge, what is wrong with me today? I never hooked up the volt gauge, and I got the tack placed in here roughly. It's just kind of sitting. None of that's finalized. But I've been back at the shop with this the last couple of days because I had a 2-day window of trying to finish up the exhaust. The headers are on. And I'm not gonna lay on the ground because it rained last night pretty good, so it's probably pretty wet. But if you come to the bottom side, got the exhaust hooked up, nothing fancy. I had an extra set of Flowmasters. I think I got a couple clips that you guys might see on that. It is not pretty, it is not pretty, but pretty crude. I ended up having to chop and weld the collector off the header and move those around, and let me tell you, that was a fiasco. I don't use the MIG welder very often. However, the gas gauge on my tank is no good. It gets stuck at 80. So I thought I had full gas, but I kept having problems and problems. Started chasing it down. Out of welding gas. Finally got that figured out. Not that big of a deal, but I swapped the bottle. Working again. Ran out of wire. And it was a constant running around issue, and I used to get welding gas from a place in Chicago, or Skokie. I never go that way anymore. Nobody else around here will refill my tanks because they're rented. Huge pain in the ass, huge debacle, but got that all sorted out. Had to buy a new tank from the local supplier, which wasn't terrible, but now I have a regular guy. It's gonna be much easier moving forward. But we got the exhaust all done. Then the shifter itself with the cable on the transmission, if you go back into any of the trans videos, if you were following them, I had that little gold piece, the low-car knockoff shifter. Where did I put that? Oh, it's all down here now. It had that slot in it for adjustability. Well, that slot is made for a linkage rod. I'm not running a rod, I'm running a cable. Trying to fit a cable into that, well, it constantly wants to move. So I had to order some special Heim joints from a master. Since the cable end is so small, it's like a 10-32 thread on the end of those universal cables. Needed to get a Heim joint for that and then put a bolt through, get all that solidified, locked down. So it was a lot of up and down, check the shifter in the car. I'm still not getting full travel for first gear, so I'm gonna have to retweak that or readjust the bracketry. I'm running that Chevy bracket on the transmission, which gets me close, but trying to set it up where I can get all the gears doesn't work with the cable lengths of a stock B&M or Hurst shifter cable. So lots to do on that front. And then the biggest part of that, in between mixing and matching and trying to get all the shifter linkages set, I realized that the rear brakes aren't working. Front brakes are fine, but rear brakes, I got nothing. Tried rebleeding them, just a little bit of a trickle. Checked the brake hose going from the hard line to the rear end. It looks good visually, not so good. The only thing I can think of, I tried bleeding them, pumping fluid through, and I redid these last fall. There's not any fluid leaking, but I'm not getting a full press from the bleeding process. I'm not getting full squirt, just a little bit of trickle. I think that line's collapsed, so I'm gonna have to replace that rear brake hose at some point. Which brings me to the next point. I've been at the shop, had the lift for 2 days to get the exhaust and all the upper fab stuff done, which was huge, but I was scrambling the clock and then ran into all the weather issues. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty burnt out on this car. Not saying that that's an excuse, but when you start getting burnt out on things, you overlook stupid things and make stupid mistakes. I did that, a good one. So when I was messing around with this, I had it all locked and loaded, had the trans shifting, but it was still kind of goofy on the adjustment. Went underneath, tightened the bolts down, adjusted it where I thought it needed to be, and jumped back in the car. And at that point, I think I had the Holly on there, testing it, and put the car in park. And I'm working at the shop without the lift because I got a bunch of jobs in front. So I'm like halfway in the garage, half out of the garage. Well, essentially at my shop, and I'll show you guys this later, but half the car would have been like here, and then we got the garage doors, some concrete posts on each side of the doors. Well, that plus new Holly, never fired, just testing it, and freshly adjusted shifter linkages. Fired the car up. I got the door open, it's been hot. Fire the car up. Number one rule that you're not supposed to do, make a bunch of changes when you're doing transmission shifter linkages. So fire the car up in park, starts right up, idling on choke circuit, so a little higher in the revs, in park for about 1.8 seconds, clicked into reverse. Really stupid. Don't have back brakes that work, front brakes work, but whatever, it's on choke, so the motor's revved up. Car starts rolling backwards. Normally not that big of a deal. Let's go to the other side and see how bad I messed this up. Car's running for 2 seconds, on choke, idling kind of high, in park, so it's revved up a little bit. Was in park, fine, for about 1.8 seconds. Then decided that it didn't want to stay in park anymore. And I just sat in the car, fired it up. So revved up, clicks into reverse kind of on its own. I don't know if the shifter linkage bolt was loose or something happened, but dropped into reverse and starts rolling back. I get on the brakes as quick as I can. Now, the problem is concrete post, garage door. So garage door, car's halfway pulled in, concrete post, and I have the driver door open. We did that. This was the result. I caught the post with the door right here. Did all sorts of damage on this door, unfortunately. Rolled over the lip seal here, so that was stupid. And at which point, by the time I was on the brakes and got it slowed down, basically caught the post right here, pinned the door out, and did the backwards pull, gull wing style. So door flipped all the way forward, crushed the whole center rail here, bent all the brackets on the mounting. My fault. Pure stupid mistake. Totally could have been avoided, but that's what happens when you get burnt out and you're overthinking things and working on a million different things at once, and you overlook the simplest little things like maybe check the shifter first. Make sure it's actually locking into gear. It sucks, but if anybody knows anybody or has a junkyard somewhere in the Illinois Midwest area with a 2-door Falcon living out there with a driver door, I am in the market. Unfortunately, the 2-door ones are pretty difficult to come by. I mean, Falcon doors in general aren't really the most common parts, but now it matches my truck, so this is why I can't have anything nice. That one was not my fault. I bought this that way, but this one, not gonna lie, didn't have the camera going at all when I was doing any of the work at the shop, just because it's been so busy dealing with customers and running around. This would have been a YouTube hit based on my understanding of how YouTube works, and people just want to watch other people do stupid crap. However, camera wasn't on. If it was, I would have posted it, as embarrassing as that is, but mistakes happen, live and learn. I feel like an idiot about it. It bothered me more the first day, but instead of trying to wrap up everything on this, I then spent the next 3 hours pulling the entire front fender off, loosening all the door hinges, and reclocking this so I could at least get it to open and close. So now you can see how much it pulled back. We got a pretty big gap up here and pretty much touching the rear quarter down here, and big gap down here, and obviously up front. This is all goofy, but it's not a show car and it's not that big of a deal. I do have a buddy of mine with a parts car that I'm grabbing a bunch of other stuff from. He's got a door, driver door, but it's a 4-door. Maybe I just DD speed shop it and go backwards from a 4-door to a 2-door conversion-ish. Use a 4-door door and weld up the back half of the 2-door one. I don't really know what I'm gonna do on that yet. Least of my concerns. I'm more concerned about the mechanicals still, because I still want to run this at the track, whatever. A little door damage, sheet metal, and busted hinges. That's the worst part. Those hinges are all bent out pretty good. Super dumb mistake, but live and learn, like I said. Not gonna let it stop me from keep jamming away on this. I needed a break, so I haven't worked on this in a couple days. Just kind of been parked since that fiasco. I'm an idiot, what can I say? So watch the channel, learn from my mistakes, and that's pretty much that. I'll keep jamming away on the rest of this stuff. Lots more coming your way. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. I'll try and fire this up real quick. Still a million odds and ends to do, but it runs and drives again. Oh, the door just hit the tree. Like that matters. Let's see. Make sure we're in park. Uh-oh. Oh no, I just popped my key out. Let's fix that real quick. Well, it's the next day, and we were getting ready to leave when the key broke yesterday. So, I jumped ahead before I turned this on. It's early morning, right before I leave for the shop. I just want to take a look. Pulled the key switch out. So in order to do that, it's not overly complicated. But if you look on the dash here, key goes here. There's a bracket on the back side of this with a light as well. This is plug and play. So I got a harness connector right here for the ignition stuff. This is the new key switch. And when I tried starting this for you guys yesterday, turned it and this slipped all the way through. So normally you got to press this little pin. There's that little brass piece right in here. Put a paper clip in there with the key, crank it over, and it'll unlock it, and you can pull this out. I gotta figure out why this decided to separate itself from the housing. So I'll throw you guys on a tripod. I'm gonna take a look at this first, and then see if I can explain what happened, because I really don't know at this juncture. We'll be back after I look at this. So we are stuck in the on position with the key. There's your accessory. This is off. Off is the only one that'll let you yank the key out like that. And then we have on and then start. You're not going to get a momentary because this is just a toggle on the key side. The momentary is actually in here. If I go to start and try dropping this back in, it's got a keyway here. This goes in here like so. Won't work in the start position, but I know I had to disconnect the battery because the power was staying on. It's locked in the on position, which is where this kind of dropped out. So this somehow needs to go all the way back in. I think what happened is it just got past this little spring. This spring is what engages on the back side of this groove. So let me get this jam back in, see what I need to do that, and then maybe we'll get lucky and this thing will still be good. It did break. These little detents, hopefully this shows up on camera. Focus, focus, focus. You can see right there, hopefully, that's kind of broken off. So basically there's two little tangs on each side of this. Cheap little repop key. I think I got this from the parts store. So I gotta order a new one of these. It will still work right now, but if I were to install this, so match up your slot here. This will now go in. That goes in way easier than it should. And the part that broke off is actually what this spring on the inside of this is supposed to grab onto. So that's unfortunate, but I can at least slap that back in, throw the key back in. So in park, on, start, return, back to off. The only thing I gotta do is make sure I hold this in. And I think that might work. I'm gonna slap it together, see if this thing will start up. We're back in the car now. I'm leaving the bezel off. I just kinda wanna see if this is gonna cycle. Oh, we should probably turn the battery on. Just clicked the battery on, so let's see if this works. One click. We got power. You guys are right in my way. Oh, we're cranking again, so that counts. Something like this, sort of. I don't have a choke hooked up on this. Make sure we're getting gas too. That'd be important. Needed some gas. It's been sitting for a couple days, but just click the gas on. Manually, accelerator pumps 2 squirts, and now she fires right up. That's how it's supposed to run. So, at cold start, we're at 0 on the trans pressure gauge and right around 10, 11 on the vacuum gauge. Fully warmed up, this jumps back up to about 14, 15. Holds pretty steady right there, but when it's cold, it's definitely struggling a little bit. Like I said, no choke, so that's got a lot to do with that. So I'll order up a new key switch that works. Oh no, I banged the broken door again. This is so much better now that it's messed up and I don't have to worry about it. But that'll wrap this one up. I just wanted to give you guys a quick real-life update of what was happening. The key switch, that's a bonus for you, because I had to fix that in order to move this turd. But be careful. Pay attention to what you're adjusting. Don't get stressed out or buried in your stuff, and forget about the stupid little things, like being cautious that you're working on a car. Mistakes can happen. I'll be the dummy to prove that to you. Catch you guys on the next one. Oh, we're just gonna keep adding on to the extra crap that's happening and things that are going on in this video. I will add this to the Falcon and the broken key and all the other crap that's gone wrong over the last couple days. But now, I'm looking at the garage. I got the cherry picker, I got 3 motors in over there. I got pretty much an entire wall of storage and crap over there. Bagger's back. This is actually going to leave because one of my good buddies that I've mentioned before, I think Lucky Knuckles Garage, they are getting another bay at some point, but they have a weird office front and then like a dead space area that's not big enough to pull cars. They're an automotive shop. Not big enough to pull cars in. 2.5 bay doors, but they're renting the unit on the end, which will give them 3 bays for working on cars with 2 post lifts and a little half door for fluids and things like that, and they're going to bridge it all together. But that middle area is kind of vacant, so that's where the bagger was before, and one of the reasons it's back right now. I touched base with them. We're going to start working on bikes out of there a little bit more seriously. We're not going to advertise it or anything like that, but I got a bunch of work and no space. They have a bunch of space and no work, so essentially I'm going to hit up the high quality Harbor Freight in the next day or so, get another little service cart and load it up with basic old Harley stuff. So standard socket set, standard set of wrenches, maybe some of the hexes and torques, but for the most part we can kind of pick and choose what comes in and out. We will not be touching anything newer than an Evo unless it's like spill and fill type deals, but that's happening. So now I'm kind of looking at my own garage with the idea of having a spot to work on some of these customer things. Right now the biggest pain in my behind, this Evo FXR thing. 1, I don't like it at all. 2, personal preference. Some people like these things. I think it's a good looking bike, it's just not my style. I have no interest or motivation in working on it. But that FXR is going to go over to their shop. I already moved my lift that the Evo Sporty chopper was sitting on at the shop. I moved that over there last weekend, cleaned up a ton over in their little area, but they have 3, we got 3 lifts over there right now. This one will stay at my house indefinitely. I'm always going to be tinkering on something here, but we got 3 lifts over there. 1 is being used for the other Evo Sporty we're kind of working on. FXR is going to go over there, and then I can actually, My only problem with taking this bike apart, I gotta pull the tanks, I gotta pull some stuff off in order to measure up for cables and all the other stuff. It's just a carb. Like, this should be a 20-minute job, and honestly, it probably would have been if I wasn't being so lazy about it. But I don't like having nice things apart in my space, if that makes any sense at all. So now I can throw this up on the lift and then start pulling the tanks off. They have room to stash a tank, to stash parts, whatever else it may be. That's why I want to move this to a spot where I'm comfortable working on it. I brought the bagger back to make room for the lift. There's still plenty of room even if I left the bagger there, but I also haven't ridden that bike since last fall. So that came back, this is back, but now I'm kind of looking around in here, and realistically, even if I'm working on a bike, I got a bunch of fluids and stuff, like just oils and generic oil change stuff there, and the service cart that I keep wheeling in and out. Then I'm looking at the actual toolbox. Well, it's super convenient when I'm working on the right side of the bike and that drawer is right there. I don't know if it has to be. So I think what I'm going to do, I just took a bunch of measurements on the actual toolbox. I think I'm going to move this box right here. I measured the distance from here to here. It's a 41 inch box over there. That's fine. That will fit and probably land right about here. The only issue is I have all my thermostat wiring, which is floating. It's on the outside underneath all this crap. I can just move this higher up. Maybe I'll even put it right up by the door. It'll get a little cold in the winter. I don't know where I'm going to move that yet. But that box will fit right here. And then I can just do fluids and then the service cart kind of in the general middle area. To me, I think that makes a lot more sense. I liked having the box central, and that was kind of my goal the entire time that I've been working on stuff up here. But if the biggest box moves over to this corner and the lower ones move over here, one that frees up more wall space. I'm gonna have to move my Eagle and the nice chrome primary I got over there and a bunch of crap. But I think if that moves over to this corner, then don't mind all the Coors cans. I didn't drink all of these tonight, but these are what we use for samples for the powder coating shop. Cables and things like that. This can go on top of here. Fluids can go back on the ground over there. And that'll give me, the only reason I didn't do that is that box is wider. But now that I got the service cart in here, realistically that box should land right about here, which takes up more workbench space than that one does. So worst case scenario, the white box that's crappy and falling apart and super unorganized can stay there. If not, I'll move this over, and if the toolbox comes to this side, we have all that space there, and maybe I'll upgrade and get something a little bit nicer, maybe even like a file cabinet or something metal that's not plastic with a bunch of broken drawers. I don't really know. One thing at a time, but thought crossed my mind. If this moves over there, then I have this open little area about the same width, but hopefully shorter. This lift can move back another couple feet, so that should free me another foot or two on the back side of this. And then I started looking at motors. 351, 302, that's brand new rebuild, just needs new cam and lifters. 350, and then the cherry picker that I keep burying in the corner. Well, I have an air compressor that sucks and is junk. This can move over here, central to the garage, so I don't have to keep moving and digging things around. I got a bunch of storage totes and containers. I don't remember, I think that's Harley chopper stuff that I don't want to sell. I don't remember what's in the bottom of that one. This one up here is empty and now holding an air hose. That's got all the Falcon parts, and then we got like our housey one, which doesn't need to be in here. We got a shutout back too. And then a bunch of, we got that T5 trans, a bunch of miscellaneous Ford parts underneath this table, and a bunch of crap on top of it. Well, that table never lived in here until recently, and once you set up a table in a spot, it's gonna get filled with crap, which is what's happening. So I think I'm gonna clear off that table entirely, put stuff that I'm not gonna use back in the garage, or in the shed, not the garage, but in the shed. Clear all of that crap off, get rid of what I don't need, do a deep clean purge in here. Motor-wise, I could do 1, 2, 3, 4 motors in place of this table. Well, 3 in place of the table, but I do have that LS I gotta pick up, so 4 could go right along this wall, and I'll just line that wall up with motors. I think the cherry picker will go here. Don't know what I'm doing with the shelf yet. That's gonna be the part that fights me, but all the fluids and stuff I have on that mini shelf over there would be much easier to organize on here, plus some extra crap, and I don't know. I'm looking at, I know I'm constantly cleaning the garage, but I'm looking at a really, really deep dive purge of things. We'll see what I get rid of, but that's kind of where we're at. So that's going to wrap this video up. Just thoughts and things moving forward. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next one.